Barry Dutter. Today I'm going to review Star Wars: The Force Awakens. This film is a remake of the 1977 Star Wars movie. I know it's technically not a remake, but, I mean, come on. Who's kidding who? This film is the first time in over 30 years that we get to catch up with the characters from the original Star Wars trilogy. And I have to say, the old characters do not fare well. Time has not been kind to them. Let's start with Han Solo. Han Solo is now the biggest loser in the galaxy. Consider this. He's lost his woman. He lost his son. He even lost his ship, the Millennium Falcon. All he's got left is Chewbacca, the big walking furball. Han is now, once again, working as a smuggler. An incredibly unsuccessful smuggler, I might add. He's ripped off everyone in the galaxy that he does business with, so there's no one left for him to even do business with. He's got a price on his head once again. It seems like the writers were trying really hard to take Han back to being that, lovable rogue that we met back in 1977. But it feels false to me. I mean, Han Solo was one of the leading fighters in the rebellion. He participated in at least 5 of the biggest battles in the battle against the Empire. He helped overthrow the Empire. Consider that. He was a hero. He received medals. And this is his fate? He goes from being, heralded and celebrated throughout the galaxy to being just forgotten and cast aside. Forced to go back to smuggling again, which he's really bad at, by the way. It didn't seem like a good fate for Han Solo. But that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people online are defending the death. They're saying, well, Han Solo knew that he had to die in order to help Kylo Ren complete his conversion from the dark side to the light side, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but you're talking about stuff that might happen in future sequels. I can't review what might happen in future sequels. I can only review what happened in the movie that I saw, which was The Force Awakens. And in that movie, I saw a beloved hero go down. Now, I know that writer Lawrence Kasdan and actor Harrison Ford were both petitioning for Han Solo to die at the end of Jedi. They felt that would have given that movie a little bit more weight. And they do have a good point. Jedi actually could have been taken more seriously instead of just being a stupid puppet show that it became. So yeah, Han's death at the end of Jedi definitely would have added more gravitas to that film. In this movie, it just seems tacked on. I mean, he just sort of has the Ben Kenobi role in this one. He's just there to pass on some advice to a young one and then get killed as his new proteges look on from afar. So, I wasn't a big fan of Han's death, but I'm not worried because I know Han will be back in the next movie. And I know you're saying, what? How's that possible? We saw Han die. You appeared to see Han die, but we never saw a body. And as we know, in every comic book, sci-fi, and fantasy movie, if you don't see a body, there is no death. And to be honest, most of the time when you do see a body, there's still no death. I mean, have you ever seen a Marvel movie? Did you ever notice that every single character who's died in every single Marvel movie has come back at some point? Yeah, it happens. It's a thing. So, hopefully Han will be better next time because we know that lightsaber did not hit any major organs when it went through him. We know this. Alright, look, I'm kidding. It probably struck a couple major organs, but Han will be fine. Don't worry about Han. He'll be back. Moving on to Princess Leia. Princess Leia is now the most boring woman in the galaxy. She has nothing interesting to say in this movie. Remember back in the original Star Wars when Princess Leia had spunk, she had moxie, she had attitude? She would mouth off to Darth Vader. She'd be like, Darth Vader, I thought I recognized your foul stench. Remember when Princess Leia used to be British? She was. Go back and watch the first movie. You'll see. It's there. Remember when Princess Leia used to say things like, you came here in that? You're braver than I thought. I mean, she had attitude. She was fun. She was spunky. We'd never seen a character like Princess Leia before. She wasn't a damsel in distress. Yes, she had to be rescued, but she was insulting the people who rescued her. She was grabbing blasters and blasting her way out. She had, she was an interesting character. And unfortunately, she hasn't been interesting for a long time. I think even in Jedi, I don't remember her doing anything particularly interesting. So, I think we've lost Princess Leia somewhere along the way. In this movie, Carrie Fisher seems to have some trouble speaking these days. I don't know if she had a stroke or something, but the writers seem to have given her as few lines of dialogue as possible. Mostly she just stands there and reacts to whatever Han Solo says. A lot of Princess Leia's lines are just exposition. She says things like, "We want to help you, Finn, but first you must give us the information we need, and then we can help you." Boring! I mean, anyone could have said that line. Admiral Akbar could have said that. So I do miss the old Princess Leia. Look, I know we all get older, but do we have to lose our personalities when we get older? Next, Luke Skywalker. Believe it or not, Luke Skywalker emerges as the one character from the original trilogy who fares best in the update. I mean, okay, Chewbacca does fine too, but he doesn't actually have any lines of dialogue that we understand. But you know a movie has story problems when the arrival on the scene of Luke Skywalker is the dramatic high point of the movie, and he doesn't have any dialogue. Now, so I have to give J.J. Abrams credit for that. Luke Skywalker is used effectively in this movie. It remains to be seen if he will continue to be effective once he actually has dialogue in future movies. But for this movie, J.J. got it right. When Luke arrives on the scene, it's actually kind of touching. So let's talk about some other things that this movie gets right. Okay, first of all, the prequels had a lot of lightsaber battles. A lot. Like 9 hours of lightsaber battles, nonstop. And I didn't care about any of them. I didn't care about any of the characters in the prequels. Even the characters that I liked in other movies, I didn't like in the prequels because they were so poorly written. Characters like Obi-Wan and Yoda didn't really do anything interesting in the prequels. This movie, The Force Awakens, has one major lightsaber battle, and you find yourself captivated by it. You find yourself caught up in the enthusiasm of rooting for the characters, caring about what happens to them. So the thing that J.J. Abrams and co-writer Lawrence Kasdan do in this movie is they get you enthusiastic about the new characters. Now, speaking of the new characters, here's another point that J.J. got right. The brilliant thing that this movie does, it makes all the new characters related to all the previous characters. And I know some of you are going, well, what about Finn? He's not related to anyone. Look, we know he's going to turn out to be the nephew of Lando Calrissian or the godson of Mace Windu. Look, it's a Star Wars movie. All the characters are related in the Star Wars universe. It's a rule. You can't be in a Star Wars movie unless you're related to someone. Just wait for it. It'll come up in the next movies. So, here's why that's a brilliant move. What J.J. Abrams has done with this movie is he has positioned Star Wars to where they can now make sequels for all time. This series can now continue for thousands of years because just as this movie followed the children of the original characters, 30 years from now, we'll be watching movies about the children of Finn and Rey. And then 30 years after that, we'll be watching movies about their grandchildren. And 30 years after that, about their great-grandchildren. And on and on and on. That's what the brilliant thing that this movie does. It makes it so that Star Wars can continue for all time. Till infinity and beyond. So, basically, I would say this Star Wars movie is far superior to the two recent Star Trek movies that were also directed and written by J.J. Abrams. Because those Star Trek movies basically sucked. I hated them. I thought they were terrible. I hated everything about them. Although, I mean, the cast was likable, but that's about it. So, I will say J.J. Abrams is a far better fit with Star Wars than he ever was with Star Trek. Now, I must admit, I was stunned and shocked and surprised at how much The Force Awakens steals from the 1977 movie. This has been gone over on the internet over and over again, so I don't need to dwell on it, but geez, right from the opening scenes, you're just kind of like, Wow, they really didn't put their thinking caps on too much for this one, huh? So hopefully the next movie will have more original ideas and maybe they'll take the story in a different direction. Hopefully there will be no Death Stars or Death Star-like objects blowing up in the next movie. I have heard a rumor that they have a working title for the next movie. It's called The First Order Strikes Back. So we'll see if that happens. Just kidding, that's not really the title. So in closing, I'd like to say The Force Awakens basically is, despite its glaring similarities to A New Hope, The Force Awakens is a fun movie. I had a good time with it. Thought it was a little too long. I thought there were parts of the script that were very predictable. There's definitely scenes where you not only know exactly what's going to happen next, but you know the exact line of dialogue that the character is going to say. So, I mean, honestly, the scene where Han Solo dies, was there anyone surprised by that? I didn't know it was going to happen, but watching the way the scene was set up, there was no other possible resolution to that scene. The writers wrote the scene in such a way that Han had to die in that scene. So I just wish it had been more surprising and more heroic. But my basic advice with The Force Awakens is, if you've never seen a Star Wars movie before, go see The Force Awakens. You're going to love it. You're going to think it's the most creative and imaginative and original thing you've ever seen. In fact, I sent my 11-year-old nephew to go see it, and he enjoyed the movie, having never seen a Star Wars movie before. If you've seen the original Star Wars movies, this new movie is going to feel pretty derivative. You'll have a strong sense of deja vu. It does things well, but I just don't know that we needed them to be done quite so similarly to how they were done in the first movie. If you've only seen the prequels, you're going to love The Force Awakens, because this movie is better than the prequels. Well, I mean, honestly, pretty much every movie ever made is better than the prequels. But, I mean, honestly, think of the worst movie you've ever seen. It's probably better than the prequels. Exorcist Part 2, better than the prequels. But it didn't have to be much better than the prequels, but it is a little bit better. A little better, so it gets a positive review from me. It was fun seeing the old gang back again. I'm really interested in seeing where they go in the next movie. Different writers next time around. No JJ next time. So let's see what happens in the next movie. Till next time, this is Barry Dutter saying, may the Force be with you. Always. You see what I did there? Hey!